Hey, so it's me again. This is going to be the last one because we have to leave after this. But I have some more things to say. I have some more things that have been occupying my brain, and it is important for me to get them out there because otherwise they just gonna fester, and they're going to keep on bothering me. But it all has to do with the future. So basically, I'm. In a point where right now I'm looking forward to the future. I like looking forward to things. I want to keep on living, but that's not where I was at a few weeks back. So there are a lot of things that they were not really concerns of mine, that now they are. And you have like small things, they're like big things. There are like medium things, but big things such as where is my source of livelihood coming next? Where exactly am I? Which direction do I have to look for? Because right now everything is kind of okay, but things they can always change. And also like October, I'm gonna have a change, so I am concerned about like what is happening coming up October. Like everything for at least like another month, things are going to be okay. But what comes after that? And even after this current state I am in, like if there's something else that I'm going to be looking forward to, or is it just is just this? Is this how things are always going to be? And if it is, it can feel a little disheartening, a little discouraging, because I want more. I want to be able to do more. I want to be able to create more. I know where some of my outlets are, and it's really grateful that I have them. But can I make them be more relevant in my life than they are? Can I, is there anything that I can do? There's always something you can do, but the matter is like, is that thing going to be relevant? Is that the fact that it has? Is it going to be something, that I should be looking forward to? Because as I said, like you can always do things, but sometimes the things that you do, they don't really impact the overall picture. And I don't know, I'm feeling very anxious because of like the future and some of the things I've been talking about like recently about seeing former classmates and where they are at, and comparing to me and seeing like where I am at, just in compared to where I wish I was going to be when I was 17, for example, 16, 17. I had a different vision of where I wanted my life to be at, and a different vision of where I was going to end up in. And like right now, that vision is like so inaccurate that it kind of almost hurts. When I think about what could have been, even though like I no longer have those aspirations and ambitions, still, I think it's not so much about the specifics of the situation, about like these hypotheticals that I wish I could be in. It's more about like the fact that like it felt like I would have done more. I would have been more. And the thing is like ultimately doing something and being something, two completely different things. And I feel like as far as like being, I'm in a really good place. I like the person who I am. I like my characteristics. I like my personality traits. I like I like the way I am. I like the way I do things. It feels authentic to me. Which is good, because I mean it seems weird to say this, because in theory like you should always be authentic to yourselves. But I think that sometimes people, they get lost trying to become someone else. Like maybe not someone else entirely, but like a different version of themselves. And ultimately, like that's just not me. Like I'm not really that version, and it doesn't hurt. It doesn't bother me as much. But sometimes I would look at the what ifs, what could have been, and like they offer me some type of respite to when it comes to like looking down at myself, where I am at right now, where I am at, where I could have been. Of course, that is stupid for me to compare myself to that, because those are, not only hypotheticals, those are just fantasies that I had. They don't really take into account my history, like where I am at right now, where I was at, and where I could have, gone. Because unfortunately, like there is kind of like a ceiling to like how much you can accomplish. There is only so much that you can do, because first of all there's a limited time that we have on earth. So like we're always going to we're never going to be able to do everything that we want to, and that is okay. It's not great, it's not something that I enjoy, but it's interesting, because like now I went from like pretty much being close to that to being very much up, like I like attacking that. Like I want to do more, I want to have more, I want to be more. And like everything I don't know. I'm not saying this as in like there is a higher power controlling everything, but ultimately things are the way they're supposed to be. I mean, they're not really like, but this is how I'm choosing to look at the situation because it helps me become, like be more at ease with myself and with the things that I'm like doing. Sometimes I look out and I see people who seems that they are living my life, in a certain way. Not my life entirely because I had very specific vision, but they're living parts of my life. They're doing things that I'm like, I wish I was, doing. Maybe not right now, but compared to when I was younger and how I would envision things, like they have been able to achieve a certain level of, success that, I wanted for certain parts of my life. And as I said, like I'm okay with where I am at. I'm okay with who I am, but sometimes where I am at is not necessarily, something that I'm okay with. Sometimes I'm feeling very, discouraged, as I already mentioned, and I feel like I haven't done enough, I haven't achieved enough, and that is just that I'm always going to feel like this. Basically, I know this for a fact that it doesn't matter how much, I achieve, how much I accomplish, it's never going to be enough because that's just my personality. That's how I look at things. It's never really satisfactory. It's always more that I want, that I could have had, and that I didn't have. Because even if you're like an insanely successful person, you're not going to, succeed at everything. There's a lot of things that, you're going to fail at, and like that's pretty much what I guess like my brain wants, to succeed at every single thing that I try, and that's never going to be the case. And also, like, there are things that, I wonder, like, am I even trying? Because I have my fantasies, as I said, and the fantasies, they're just that. They're not really plans. They have to do with, like, these hypothetical versions of myself that have different priorities and different interests. And so like, they're not really me. They're not really the I that I'm working on. But, they exist, they're there, and, they kind of, like, they will always exist. They're not going to be necessarily the ones I have right now, but they're always going to be there, and they're always going to be existing there for me to compare. And by comparing, I end up detracting a lot of what I have already done, already accomplished. I don't know, like it is this mixed feeling of like me being okay with who I am, being kind of like happy with where I am and where I am at, and being completely dissatisfied with like what I have accomplished and what I have done and what I compared to what I could have done. And also like it's not so much that I'm feeling that like I haven't really, the things I have tried, they didn't succeed. It's more that I feel like I haven't tried enough things. I'm not farther enough away so that I can try certain things. There's certain things that they're not even like right now, they're not within my grasp because I'm so far behind, it feels sometimes. Ultimately, like I think I am able to step back and just be okay with where I'm at and if what is happening. But these thoughts, they come and they go, and they happen much more intensely. The day of me being frustrated when I started some weeks ago, some months ago, or a month or so ago. Yeah, I think that was when, where I was very dissatisfied with my position in the world, and I had these fantasies that were pretty much being right there. They were kind of like being plastered, around my face, so I can compare them, and they were not. And yeah, and then compared to them, like I was nowhere. Of course I understand that whenever I'm looking at things, I'm not being objective. I'm being kind of biased. I really discount a lot of the things that I have done, the things that I have accomplished, and I'm just pretty much not counting them and or minimizing them. So yes, like it's like my brain is just looking at the highest possible kind of like achievement that I could have, and while comparing it to the lowest possible denominator of like the things that I have accomplished. So it doesn't help. But there was a point in time where I was just so frustrated. It was like basically it was painful actually, to compare, and it made me want to give up. To just quit. Maybe give up. That is not the right word, but it made me want to quit everything because it was. But that's the thing. Like, how do I go from point A to point B? Point A being where I am at, and point B being my fantasies. And as I talked about before, a lot of times there isn't really a way because like there is. I think it's so far ahead, and I have to kind of like follow a certain path for me to even get close to even being like that. But there are certain deadlines in my life, so like I have certain things I want by a certain point in time, and if I don't have those things, I kind of then it's kind of like all over. That's how I feel. It's like over for me, and for yeah, it's kind of over. But yeah, but it is this big things, these small things. For example, something small that like is giving me anxiety. It is my storage, on Google Photos. It's not Google Photos, it's Google One, because it also considers emails and so Gmail and like Google Drive and other things. They're all stored, and I'm still like a year away from like I think from like things being bad, but I keep on but at a certain point, like I'm gonna run out of storage, and I'm already at a very peak. So I don't know if they have like a higher plan for that, and if they do, it's going to be much more expensive. And that is something that, like, when I was thinking about just dying, it wasn't really a problem because like it gonna be my issue to deal with in the future. But now that I'm here to stay, at a certain point I'm gonna have to do something about this, and everything that I do is kind of like, for example, this video is going to be taking some storage, so I'm getting closer to the deadline. So it is a small thing, but small thing that whenever I look at it, it's giving me a little dose of anxiety. And then there is thinking about money and the future and work, and there's another dose of anxiety. And I'm thinking about like my life in general and where I am at, as opposed to where I wanted to be at. And there's another dose of anxiety, and like not only anxiety, but then you add a level of frustration, and it's just very demotivating. I don't feel like always like keeping going, which is awful. Like I shouldn't even say this, because it's not that I believe like words have power in like a religious way that people say it, but like these things that you say, you do kind of like end up absorbing them. So there is something there. So I don't want to even say that, because it could be risking me getting closer to actually being like that. But I have to put it out there, because otherwise, what's the point of this whole thing? Like, it's supposed to be my journal, and my journal is supposed to help me not only register my life, but make me feel better about myself and about my place in the world. And right now, I don't know where to go. Truly, I don't know where to go from here. I have desires, I have dreams and aspirations, but right now, like the real actually dreams and aspirations that I have, they're being kind of like they're being obfuscated by like my fantasies. So like that's the only thing that I want. Although I would say like recently, like they haven't really been having as much power, but they kind of exist. Maybe I'm just like I'm thinking about this right now. Like they are more at the background. So like I think the issue is like, what exactly do I want? Do I hope to accomplish? For example, with college, like what do I want from that? Like where do I want to go from there? These questions, they're very basic, but they're also very fundamental. I don't have answers to them, and I don't really know how to make them work for me. I don't know how to make anything work for me at this point in time. It feels like things are just happening not randomly, but like they're happening outside of my peripheral. I'm just here, and just things are occurring, and I can kind of like look at them, but I can grasp them. It feels like it's a losing battle. It feels sometimes like a losing battle, but I don't feel like I'm losing the battle. It's just something that when I look at it, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm losing this. I'm losing my grasp. Maybe it seems kind of like losing my grasp of reality a little bit. It certainly happens when I get busy. But yeah, that's kind of that. So anyways, bye.